Hey, and welcome to another episode on my YouTube channel, where today we're going to look at how agentic AI influences our day-to-day lives and how it changes the way that we work. Ran, welcome to the show.
Hi, Johannes. Great to be here once again.
Welcome back for, I think, the fourth time or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
And we have a very, very hot topic today because we're going to talk about how agentic AI shapes all of our world, especially in tech industry, where you and I are both working. Ran, how did your day-to-day job change in the past weeks and months? And why do you think this is a hot topic?
Well, I think that if you're gonna ignore the fact that AI is here, you're gonna find yourself without a job. So I think we all need to mentally address this and understand that AI can be useful, not panic, and we can leverage it to help us do our work much better. And also our work is different. It's gonna change. As you're gonna see in my slide, we're doing different things. We're not just writing code. We're not writing code. I don't remember even when was the last time I ran a debugger. I think I didn't do that in like ages. So that's also something that the work itself, the profession changes. So I think this is something that we all need to understand. And today I thought I'd share some insights, some feeling about, how to handle this change and how I do work. Whether it's my personal projects, whether it's my architect work, or whether it's even generating content on my website. So I think I'm going to address all of that. I'm going to share insights, skills, configuration, my setup, everything is reusable. I'm going to have GitHub gists so people can use and enjoy.
Cool. Sounds really interesting. And yes, I've been very skeptical on agentic AI for a very long time, but in the last few months, it really changed, right? And I think I can see it all across my day-to-day job. And you need to be thinking about how to get things rolling and how to change the way that we work on a day-by-day basis. So, Ran, how do you want to drive this conversation? Do we want to start with just looking at one of the slides to get us started and just make a good conversation out of that? Let's go.
Yeah, let's do that. So let me know when you see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, so this is me basically. And this is me in the last, I think, half a year, even a year, every time I go into LinkedIn and I see all these new, things, all these news from AI and Anthropic. I think even in the last week, like you had Opus 4.8 and dynamic workflows, and you have all these things that happen all the time. They ship like crazy, and it's really easy to feel just like it's way too much for me to keep up. Do you feel like this, Johannes?
Yeah, I have the same challenge. Like, it's really hard to keep up to date. I've actually stopped reading Twitter or X or a lot of the socials because just reading the articles around this is already hard enough, right? So there's so much change every day that AI is really changing the pace of day-to-day work, I would say.
Yeah, it's really hard to understand. Is this even useful? Should I be interested in this? When do I have the time to check these things out? And I'm here to say that it's okay if you don't follow everything. Even myself, I'm not a Claude expert. By the way, this session is more about Claude because I use Claude, but many of the insights are relevant to whatever agents, frameworks, IDEs you use. So I'm not a Claude expert. I don't have any Anthropic certificate, which, by the way, I don't think you should get. They expire in 6 months, and it's really ridiculous. But what I am is actually, I'm a builder. I've been building things for almost 15 years. I'm pushing to production. I understand system design. And I think also I'm a very curious person, and I like to learn. I think these are the skills that help me in the end to deliver. I still manage to deliver with Claude. So, like I've mentioned in the beginning, I've built personal projects and I've been able to save over 3,500 shekels per year, which is over $1,000 per year that I'm not going to pay. I'm going to pay for tokens, but at least I'm not going to pay for those SaaS subscriptions and other applications. I'm generating better content much faster. I'm going to talk about that later. And also at work, I feel like I'm a super architect. I can finish tasks much, much faster. It's not even about code, by the way.
So you really see how that changes the way that your day-to-day goes, right? So like for me, do
everything,
you feel like
not just work, like every aspect of my life is being impacted by AI, basically.
Okay, then I think you're a bit further than I am, right? Because for me, I really use AI today just for work and for coding and for, finding things faster in Google, which we had in the past, right? I use chat tools to be faster with that as well.
Yeah,
but I don't think it influences every day all of my work.
So, unless the AI can take care of my kids, I think we're still fine there. But there are many aspects that we can automate. And I think this is what I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about my personal project, Cowork, Claude Cowork, how I use it at work, and some general tips. So first, very quickly about me. My name is Ran Eisenberg. I'm an AWS serverless hero. I'm a senior principal architect at Palo Alto Networks. I'm an AI service and platform engineering consultant, and I have a website, which we're going to talk about today, runthebuilder.cloud, where I share all the things that I write about and build and things like that. Right, so before we continue, my setup. So I use VS Code with Claude Code extension, with my Claude subscription and my custom skills that we're going to talk about those later. This is for my personal projects. I also use Claude Cowork with the built-in connectors. And at work, I use the same VS Code and Claude Code with Bedrock API. Okay, so the first project that I've started was the Mac folder synchronizer. By the way, it's an open source, and all the gists. It's YouTube, so you can just stop the video. But also in the end, there's one giant QR code where you can see all the links that I talk about here. So basically, I was bored. That's, I think, a good reason to start a project. And I have Google Drive, and I sync one of the folders that I have on my Mac, but I wanted another local sync. So I bought a NAS, network attached storage, and it has its own network address in my home network. I wanted to use rclone, which is an open source, to constantly sync the folder to also my local network storage. So I'm going to have two backups. Now I could have written a script, Python, and be done with it, but I wanted to do something more interesting. I wanted to build a UI, a MacBook application. Now I've never built a MacBook application, and for that purpose, you have Claude, so why not? And this is the UX. It's very simple. It shows you when was the last sync. You can have the configuration. It can even do the mounting of the network drive. If for some reason it's not mounted, you have the logs, and that's it. It's very simple, and it gets the job done. It's Python script.
It solves a very small problem, right? So it solves a problem in your day-to-day activity. And that's what I've been also seeing, like when reading some socials, people start to do that all the way long, and it seems to be too simple to do that.
And I think, but it's very important not to go overdo with it. Google search it, do some research, because sometimes there are projects that do the same thing, and you can just use them instead of building something that is going to be maintenance. But in this case, I didn't find anything, and I also wanted to try and learn, so that's what I did. And I figured out, it's a very moderate scope. It's not a lot of work. So let's do a naive vibe coding session. I'm going to ask Claude, I'm going to describe the problem to Claude. I'm going to do a short plan mode with Claude and let it go. Do you want to guess how it went, Johannes?
I would guess it didn't go too well. It took a lot of time, and at the end, things didn't work as expected, and it deleted your whole folder, maybe?
Well, I did have a bug where it deleted files at some point, but luckily Google Cloud has the trash where you can restore things. But yeah, overall it wasn't a great experience. Like plan mode missed a lot of edge cases and user flows. I didn't even understand some of the user flows that I wanted to have, and I understood them only once I had something to play with. And also had some bugs, didn't have proper testing, and even the local build procedure was not great. So I thought that next time, the next project, I'm going to do things differently and do better. And I think this is where I kind of want to take a closer, like a higher level view of the SDLC, which is usually we're using AI already, right? In every stage of the path here, whether it's planning or design, developing, writing code, things like that. But it's not great, right? Because we're missing structure and consistency. Like the outputs are not always as consistent in their quality.
True.
In this case, because, well, Claude is not great for planning. We already said it. It didn't cover everything perfectly, and the code wasn't great. And sometimes it's even me to blame because I don't spend enough time in planning and I just go ahead and say, hey, I'm a super architect. Let's go and write some code. So what I want to have is a better experience where I go through the different stages and in the end I have the best possible outcome no matter which project and what task I'm going to try. And for that purpose, we have new frameworks, the AI-driven SDLC frameworks. Have you heard of those, Johannes?
I haven't been exposed too much. I read 1 or 2 articles, but I haven't used them in action, right? So I think the closest thing to it is the spec-driven development approach that I've used. But it's like really just coding and then focuses only on a certain aspect of the whole flow, I would say. Okay,
so we're gonna see a more advanced approach, but spec-driven is a major part of that. But in the end, we're gonna have faster and consistent iteration. And the idea here is that we still have the same stages along the SDLC, but we're gonna have sub-stages. We're gonna have plan, where the agent is gonna try and figure out what it needs to do in the specific stage. And then through elicitation, we're gonna have validation and refinement, that we're going to make sure that the agent does exactly what it needs, that it's going to execute the plan that it needs to do. And then it does the execution stage. Once it finishes that, it goes to the next stage, whether it's design, development, etc. Now, I did mention spec-driven. Do you have something to say, Johannes?
Well, I had a question on the slide before. Like in the slide, it looks like we're going to iterate through the different phases for every phase of the SDLC. Is that what you're kind of trying to say? So that means I'm going to plan for planning, I'm going to validate my planning, I'm going to refine my planning, I'm going to execute on my planning, then I'm going to do the same for design and for development. And with that, I think what I understand is it looks initially like it's getting more complex, right? Like there's more things to do.
I mean, it is, and it's yes and no, because it means, these are all things that you're kind of doing mentally anyways. When you're planning, you're thinking, you're iterating, you're getting feedback from people, you're changing things, but now we're just making it more constructed. So
but I think this is a very important
we've been doing
point.
These things all the time. To think about
and sorry for jumping on top of your Ran, but I think this is a very, very important time. And I think if you consider all of these phases in an enterprise world, what project managers see is this is going to take months. But that's not true. It's not going to take months, right? It happens kind of instantly. It happens faster in everybody's mind, right?
It is.
And how do you, like, so how long does an iteration take for you at the moment?
So it depends. So I'm going to give you an example. We're getting very close to the concrete example.
Sorry.
But it can take you, let's say that you can sometimes ship epics that would have taken you 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You can do this in 2 days. Even 1 day sometimes. It really depends, but it's very fast. Again, depending on the task, but it can be very fast. Now, I did mention spec-driven. So the idea here is that we have the agent has local files like MD files, which are kind of the new programming language, you could say. You have agents MD or Claude MD for Claude, where you define some instructions that it must always follow. You have the project definitions, the architecture of the service, and on the right you have the specs. Now these are very critical because here you have all the outputs that we did in the substages. You can have the story definitions, the product requirements, the feature, the tasks, and things like that. And the agent is going to write these files as it goes along. It's going to edit them, it's going to reiterate them, and it's going to reuse them across the entire SDLC stages. So these files are basically, it's memory, very critical to make sure that everything is consistent. Right, so this brings me to the second project that I did. And I wanted to actually replace a subscription that I had for ClickUp.
Okay.
And I wanted to build something that looks very similar and basically gives me the same capabilities for me. I didn't build ClickUp, obviously. It's a very complicated SaaS solution. I built something that is very customized for me. But in later iterations, I kind of made it more open sourcey and more generic, so you can actually use it. I actually released a version yesterday which brings lots of new features. So it's just a Kanban board that you can use also for note taking, by the way. So I wanted to build something like this. That was the idea, basically.
Okay.
And what I did, I said, you know what, let's try these cool frameworks. So one of these frameworks is called BMAD, Build More Architect Dreams, which is already an amazing name, and I wanted to try it.
Great name, yeah.
Yeah. So the way you install it in Claude, it's commands, but in other tools, it can be just, just skills. So I took the BMAD brainstorming skill for a drive to have a proper planning. So what I did is actually...
Just a stupid question, Ran, sorry. Those are now, we're looking at Claude skills. The Claude skills are available through Claude commands. They are actually written kind of in Markdown and give the agent
This
ideas.
is an open source. So this is an open source that you can install. They're all Markdown files. You can install it to Cursor, to Kiro, whatever you want.
Okay.
You can use them. Okay. That's the very cool idea, that they're very agnostic. So what I did is I sat down and started to describe what I want to build, this Kanban board. And I had two user flows that I wanted to build. Okay. And we did a session with it kept asking me questions, right? Through elicitation. What do you think about this? And what do you think about that? 50 minutes, I kid you not, 50 minutes of back and forth. And in the end, I had an empty file. These are all, by the way, real images from the project that I saved for a blog post. So these are all real outputs. 36 ideas. I started with 2 ideas, but now I realized in the end that I wanted 36 concrete ideas to build for the same Kanban board, okay? Remember the first time we planned, I didn't understand all the flows, the code wasn't great? It all starts from great planning to understand what you want to build. So this is what I did. So now I had 36 ideas, and it doesn't stop there because it takes you through the other stages.
How long did it take you to get there? Like 50 minutes is what you said, right? To get to the ideas.
50.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, 50 minutes. And then you talk about the requirements. You have dependencies, MVP, feature list. Then you go through the design. You choose a tech stack. For this one, it was Swift. And then you do the design, and eventually you build it. So I used it to build the first version, and it was great. It was so much better. Like the experience was much better. It took a lot more time, but in the end, I got it working, and I was very satisfied with the result.
How long from like ideation until you had the working version on your Mac?
I think it was all in the same day or 2 days because I was off on that, but something like that.
That's my, that's my experience as well, right? You can ideate from an idea to something that is usable in a very short amount of hours if you want to.
Yeah, I have more on that. On the next project. You're really touching a really good point because there's a large asterisk there, but we'll keep it for a bit longer.
True.
So if I need to summarize it, I think this image summarizes. We're in control. We're telling the framework what we want to build. We decide how we want to build it. It uses our customizations, our guardrails, and it leverages our agents, our IDE, our skills, our MCP, and takes us through the different SDLC stages all the way to actual production. Now here you can see 4 different frameworks: BMAD, OpenSpec, SpecIt, and even AWS. They wrote their own skill in their open source AI-DLC workflows. And I have a blog post on my website, a guest blog post that compares these and tells you which one is better for either for enterprise, for a solo person, which one's going to cost you more, which one's going to take you more time, things like that, because they're very different in their approaches, even in their outputs. It's a bit different. So it's a whole thing. Okay, there is no clear standard yet, at least.
And I've heard of most of them. I've never used them, right? So
okay. So I challenge you to try one.
Yeah, I'll read the article first, and I'll put that article in the show notes as well to ensure that others can read it as well. But at the end, maybe you can say what's the best from your perspective, right? So you might know, Ran, I've been using Kiro a lot, and Kiro kind of uses a Spec kit-like workflow, I would say, right? Also very pretty similar. At least that's what I've been using, and I have a bunch of experience with that, but not with the frameworks in the way that you called them out over here.
I think it's interesting to see. I mean, OpenSpec is going to be the easiest. I mean, it's not going to be like BMAD where we have 50 minutes of planning, which is it's hardcore. You really need to have the patience and be willing. I mean, it asks really good questions, but you gotta be in the right mindset for that. I mean, it's going to give you the best outcomes probably, but you gotta be ready for some mental exercise. So the epic must really deserve your attention to use BMAD.
Okay, makes sense.
Have you heard of this term, SaaSageddon or SaaSapocalypse?
Yes, I've read a lot about that, and I think also you had a blog post on that in a few weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And as you might know, I've been playing around with building my own SaaS a little bit, right? And there you really see that. Right, so I don't know. What's your take on this?
So I'm gonna talk about that later in the slides. But overall, I can say that you see a lot of. They say that AI is gonna replace SaaS. Nobody's gonna use SaaS anymore. The SaaS companies, their stock is gonna plummet. Yada yada. I work in a SaaS company, and I work in a cyber SaaS company. So for me, AI is really good news overall. I think some companies are going to get hit, some are going to adapt and learn from it and leverage it. I don't think SaaS is dead. Spoiler. When you read articles like this, we built Monday in 4 hours. That's really rude, honestly. Nobody built Monday in 4 hours.
Definitely not.
Maybe they build some odd customization, and even that, not sure it's going to be production ready. But it brings you headlines, whatever. So but in the end, it impacted stock. There are still companies that are very impacted, and they lost a lot of their value. So there is something to it, but it all depends on how the companies react and leverage AI. So as a person who works in a SaaS company, and as a person who actually uses SaaS to host my own website from the builder.cloud, I use Wix. At least for the last 4 years, I used Wix. And I use it because it provided me a very easy experience. It gives me an easy way to manage my website. It has a mobile and desktop editor that I can do things visually. I'm not a front-end developer, not really interested in learning that. Don't have the time for that, honestly. It brought me the high availability, the servers, the patching, whatever. Everything that I needed was there. There are some features that weren't there, like dark mode and other customizations, and performance wasn't optimized. But for me, I wanted to focus on generating content and have people be able to book me for consulting and not, working on front end. So for me, that wasn't the focus. But I said, you know what? SaaSageddon is here or whatever. Let's see if there's something to it. So I thought, let's try and build something by myself. And I thought, even if it doesn't work, at least I'm going to have a cool image for a blog post where I'm going to say it built my website and now I'm homeless looking for a job because nobody needs to employ me anymore. So I said, let's give it a go. So I actually started, I know this is a generated image, but it's real. I started a private repo called Wix Wannabe because I was very skeptical at the time that it's gonna work perfectly, and because you're gonna see there's a lot of content on the website, there are a lot of things that are going on. I didn't think it's gonna work, but I gave it a go. So this is the real prompt that I used, and again here I used a different SDLC framework. I didn't use BMAD. I used AWS's framework for that, and the prompt said, "Hey, my website is on Wix. This is the address. I want to build a modern version of that. Scan the website, extract the structure, all the resources, migrate the content, use a similar theme, choose the framework because I have no idea about front end, but focus on security and performance because it's important. And for the backend, which I do know, please host it on AWS, use CDK Python for infrastructure as code with CloudFront and S3. And I want to support mobile resolutions and localhost view of the website." And off we went. Like I mentioned, we're using AWS AI DLC workflows, and this is the real output that I saved for the blog post. And you can really see, yes, it says Wix Wannabe in the workspace. It identified the project as Greenfield, which has nothing there. True. And then it starts to iterate the requirements. Cool. And it says, we went through a elicitation, and eventually it says, okay, you have 70 plus blog posts, you have a page for services, you have YouTubes, you have a homepage, articles, all these cool things. And it started to work, okay? And 3 hours later, this is what I got. And I have to say, this is pretty amazing. First of all, you have dark mode, which is the number one reason I wanted to start this entire thing. Like I wanted a dark mode. Now it looks great. It has all the things. It has search. You can book me. You have the logos. You have everything there. Looks really cool. But some blog posts, or at least most of the blog posts, didn't migrate correctly. Okay. Some GitHub gist code examples were broken. Images were removed. I didn't have any tests. No unit test, no end-to-end tests. The design was okay, but in Hebrew we say parva, which means that it lacks spice. It's not interesting enough. Okay. Yeah. It has security issues, so telling the agent fix all security issues didn't really work. And it also had security. It also has performance and accessibility and SEO issues, but it kind of worked, which was very impressive. So,
like, do you think on the specs that you had created, you missed out on specifying the things that were missed?
Yeah, probably I missed some of those things. Maybe it didn't ask correctly, but I'm not sure that it would have done all of that perfectly, because I know for a fact that some things it just missed. Like CloudFront has I don't remember the name, where you can pay up front every month X dollars, and don't need to worry about DDoS, or you get your own WAF, and you get all these things out of the box, and you don't need to worry about somebody, I don't know, causing lots of reads, and then you're gonna get like a $10,000 bill. Just pay $15 or something like that. You get a quota, and you don't need to think about it. So it didn't know that it existed because that was a relatively new thing. Also, accessibility and other things, it doesn't know how to do that. And that's my point here. It did deliver fast. It wasn't perfect. Agents are limited. They don't know everything. But on the other hand, I'm also limited. I don't know everything. I don't know accessibility. I don't know SEO. And that's why we need external trusted experts. And that usually comes in the forms of skills and also other ways to measure the outcomes that we have. So what is a Claude skill, or basically any agent skill? It's just a reusable MD file or a set of MD files that can bring your agent new toolbox and new information or on how to do things, new domain logic like serverless designs, SEO, accessibility, testing, whatever. So I was missing some very specific skills. Luckily, I was able to find them. So I found a repository by Boaz Zinnemann for SEO, accessibility, and Google Analytics. We're going to see how that made an impact very quickly. And also Anthropic have their own UI design skill, which really pimped my website dramatically. But even here, even though it's a skill, it took me multiple times to run it because it's not very deterministic. So every time it had a new idea that it wanted to do on my website. So that's also something really important to keep in mind. So it had new fonts, new ideas for different pages, what kind of animations to add and things like that. And here you can see how it did the performance. So before, this was nothing close to what I had on my Wix website. You see SEO, best practices, all 100, except for performance. And I think, Johannes, you as a German, probably you see it at 99, you think, no? Why is it not 100?
It's good enough for me. I'm not the typical German in that, right? But I think this is impressive. Like, just with using the skill, improving the website that much is something.
Yeah, but it's not just the skill, because you also need some way to validate the skill, because it's very not deterministic. So even though you have a skill, you don't really know for sure it covers everything and that the agent did everything in this skill. For accessibility, you have all these things, RFCs that you need to follow. You don't know that. That's why you need external validations like Google's PageSpeed, which is what we're seeing here, which scans your website and tells you whether you actually did a proper job. So I don't understand anything about accessibility. I just know how to use the skill and I know how to scan my website. That's it. And by using these two validations, I can leverage my agent to actually solve the problem that I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
that's the cool idea here. And also the SEO, you can see that my Claude Code best practices is number 2 in Google in some countries, I guess, which is very cool. So great, thanks SEO skill. So I think the main takeaway here is that for me, production took time. I after those 3 hours, I needed to decide whether I really want to push this to production and continue working on that, because it's gonna take time. And I decided that, you know what, it's fun. The dark mode is awesome. I want to try it. So I continued and I got really excited about it. The more I developed and the more I did it. So I think I have now over almost 150 PRs. With over 4,000 tests. I have a GitHub action CI/CD pipeline that does everything for me. I have a script that takes a doc, like a blog post, and injects the SEO, does the description, does text to audio. It has everything that I need. I get Google Analytics with very custom analytics that I did. I get emails every day with tons of cool things that I didn't even knew that I wanted. But I think the point here is that I designed it. I decided what I want to build. Claude built the code, which I'm no expert in the front-end code whatsoever, but it did it and tailored it to my needs, right? I didn't build Wix. SaaS isn't dead. Production takes time, and I'm committing here for maintenance for life, and that's fine because I'm okay with that, because for me it's worth it. And also the SDLC frameworks and the process overall was a game changer. And the skills and the external validations, they make a huge difference. I think that's the main lesson that I take from the work.
Okay. So that means for you, really, it was worth investing that time and effort to get that done, because now you feel like you have the power. Or what's the main?
Well, first of all, I learned a lot of cool things.
Okay.
Also about front end, also about websites overall. And my website has many features that I wasn't able to get in Wix, because that's not what they do. It's very customized to what I want to do. And if I want to do that, I just go ahead and do that. And I think after the first work, you reach a plateau now. So now, I still add features. I added a feature this week around events and things that I attend. But usually if I just want to have maintenance, I run a script, make update dependencies. It does whatever it needs to do, and I push it to GitHub, and that's it. I don't need to think about the maintenance anymore. So I think we went over the hard part. Now it's easy.
Yeah, and I think that's what I see as well. For me, the hardest question over there is always how much, like, the learning time that you invest into it is always worth it, because you learn new things, you understand things.
Yeah.
But what's the money that you're spending on this? Like, with all of the different things that I've been building, at the moment, the most money that I'm spending is GitHub Actions. It sounds very stupid, right? But I spent millions of not only tokens but millions of dollars. Well, not millions, a lot of dollars on getting the stuff that I've been building deployed, right? And I think that's something that usually the SaaS company also takes for you, right? So.
Yeah, that's true. Again, it depends on the scale of the project. It's the same question that we always had. Like, should we build something or should we buy something? I think it's the same question. And GitHub have the free tier is good enough for me. I was able to reach the limit only 1 month, but other than that, it's fine. It doesn't run every day anyway, so only when I build something.
True. Cool. So that means that now your website is fully built by Claude. I think that you have added a few fancy features like transcription and reading the blog posts.
Yeah,
and stuff
these are
like
things. Yeah. You can click on play or select any text and play from that spot. These are features that I checked. They cost a subscription, very high subscription, like hundreds of or thousands of dollars every month to actually get working. But I did kind of cheat because I used my token for AWS to use to generate the MP3s. So I had the tokens, so for me it was a no-brainer. I didn't have to pay for that. But other than that, the feature itself, once you have the MP3s, it's a subscription that you pay a lot of money for. But I don't pay. I developed it, so that's cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, so how does this at the end influence your day-to-day job at CyberArk then? Like the learnings that you've made.
Yeah, so I'm not working at CyberArk anymore. We were acquired by Palo
I'm sorry,
Alto. Yeah. But I'm getting there. Don't worry. So first, before that, let's talk about Claude Cowork. Are you familiar with Claude Cowork, by the way, Johannes?
Yes, I've not used it, but I know what it is.
So now I think you're going to want to use it more. So recently I was asked, I got a message on LinkedIn from somebody who told me he read my article, and the article was, he said, you had M- in the article, so hey, you should pay attention to that because people don't like it. They think it's AI generated, so they're not going to read it. Now, he didn't say anything about the article or the content or anything, which kind of pissed me off because the article was pretty good. Like I shared information and knowledge and experience that AI doesn't have. And just because I used a small paragraph and asked AI to help me refine it or write it nicer, and it had an M- by mistake, he didn't read it, right? So I think that's his loss. But I said, you know what? I'm not gonna, I write a lot of content and I want people to read it. And if people are like that, then fine. I'm gonna be smarter. I'm gonna still use AI, but I'm gonna use AI so it sounds like me. Okay. So I'm gonna use AI to write, but it's gonna sound exactly like me. And I think that was another like a leap that I did mentally. So instead of I started with Grammarly or or the dictionary in Word, right? But now I'm actually going to write with AI, not just ask it to refine, but really write with AI. I'm going to show how it looks like. So Claude Cowork is an application that we can install on our computer. It can access some folders, it can access applications, and we can leverage it to whatever we want. It's really not strictly for coding. It's actually not really for coding. It's for people who don't really want to use it for coding. I use it for writing blog posts. I'm going to share the process and also the configuration of what I did. So you have the Claude MD. That basically tells it the rules there, what it can write, which folders, the file names, things like that. Mm-hmm. Also that it needs to read the two other files, like about me. Who am I? What is my persona? What is my profession? My voice, things like that. And also the anti-AI style guide. So how to write like me and how not to write. These are all things that I want to tell it. So in Claude Cowork, you define a project, and I just created a folders on my computer, Claude Work, where you have the about me, all the outputs, the project and templates. And I created a writing project. So the writing project is scoped to the writing folder, where it can only read and write to those folders. About me is read only.
Okay.
And these are the files. So CloudMD, I'm going to do this very, very briefly because it's not the main point here.
Yeah,
all the files are available on the QR codes. Here I'm going to tell it, hey, this is the structure. You need to read the about me. Here's how you write the file names, the suffix, whatever. Mm-hmm. Then you have the about me file where I talk about who am I, my expertise, my experience, my run the builder brand, things like that. And this is the magic sauce. This is the writing style guidelines. So here I tell it, first of all, don't use M-dashes. We don't like M-dashes, okay? And don't write choppy sentences. Don't be so concise about what you write. Prefer longer connected sentences. Don't use deep dive and things like that. And here it's more about how I do things. So title needs to be 60 characters. Abstract needs to define what's in it for me, what's the problem, and then why you should read the article. Mm-hmm. And then you explain the problem, then the solution, then deep dive solution, then summary. So things like that, that's how I write things. That's really the pattern that I use when I write. And I think the point here is that it's not like I'm going to tell the agent, write a blog post about serverless and I'm going to dump that on my website, because that would be an AI slop that sounds like me. That's not the point here. What I want to see it is like when I think about something that I want to talk about, things that I want to share, I write things somewhere in a notebook, on a document. I write some takeaways, some thoughts, things that I want to do. I want to dump all those thoughts, those uncompleted thoughts, to Claude, so it helps me to take them and turn them into a proper blog post. So it's like this, sitting in a therapist and talking about your problems and understanding them better. I think that's the analogy. And this is an actual prompt that I found. And this is about a blog post that I wanted to say that now that AI has made the cost of writing code so cheap, everybody's writing code. Everybody's writing trash projects so they could get likes on LinkedIn. Hey, check out my cool project that I'm not gonna maintain 2 days after tomorrow, but look how cool I am and how I use AI. And sometimes they build something that is already open source and free and didn't even know about it. And by the way, sometimes I also do that. That's fine. But I just wanted to talk about the cons of AI being so easy to use. Okay,
and I think
these are kind of the thoughts.
That's a big concern that I have as well. Like, it makes things easier, and a lot of people are abusing it for that, right? And for me, I don't know how it is for you, but I talked about that earlier. Like, I'm struggling with reading social media because there's so much flow coming in, so much things coming in, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's directly impacting the way that I consume information because it's just too much.
Even personal messages like DMs in LinkedIn, like sometimes they're not even real people. I had a case where somebody sent me a message, hey, I follow your content, yada yada. I said, hey, cool, thanks for connecting. And he sent me the same message again. But it'd be different, but the same message. So that was very weird. Like a person would not send exactly the same thing.
Not.
Hey, thanks for connecting. I follow your... obviously it's a bot. Like people, I don't know, some open Claude, whatever. People are way too open about letting AI use their social accounts and emails.
Yeah.
Anyways, the point here is that this is not a blog post. These are just thoughts, are very unstructured thoughts. And because of how I use it, it turns into this. Title, AI made everyone a builder, and that's the problem. And then you have all these kind of thoughts built into different paragraphs where I want to write and use it. And in the end, you get a docx version 1. Now, it's not like I take the first version and I work on it and edit it. No. If I don't like something in the document, I tell Claude, listen, in the second paragraph, I think the takeaway is not like that. Here, please make it shorter. And here, let's add a diagram that you have this and that calls that. So I don't write the words. I just give criticism and tell Claude how I want to write the blog post. And here you can see I had 8 iterations on this blog post. It took me 4 hours overall, 3 hours. You can see even where I stopped to have lunch. And in the end, you have an article the day after. So you see even the image is with ChatGPT because it's awesome for images. You see the robot sitting on a pile of trash projects. And in the end, it's my voice. It's my thoughts, it's my experience, just faster. And it helps me to write and share more than before. I think already this year, I have like another 5 or 4 articles that are ready to get published and I'm waiting because it's just too much. So I don't remember any year where I had so much things that I could share because before I wouldn't write about things. I would just say it would take me too much time. I'm not going to write about it. And it's just too bad because I'm not sharing information, experience, knowledge that people maybe can use. And also people read these articles and I didn't hear a single complaint. I think the last 7 or 8 articles are like that. So I didn't hear any complaints and people are reading them and I have analytics around that. People are reading it and that's great.
Cool. Yeah. And that's what is making things faster for you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, now we know that some of the stuff is heavily influenced by AI of what you're writing, or at least most of the words. Does that mean for the users, or for maybe also for you, if you read content, that you're skimming through the content more and taking out the thoughts, or how does it affect your own way of consuming information?
I think I've always, I see it in the analytics also. Analytics. People spend sometimes between, it depends on the article. This article, usually people spend 30 seconds to go through it. So I think they read through the titles, main titles, maybe paragraph here, paragraph there. Maybe they read 60, 70% of it.
Okay.
But on the Claude Code best practices, they usually get all the way to the end. I have analytics around that. And they spend average of 2.5 minutes, which is not a lot, honestly.
Yeah, true. True.
If you have in the image here, you can see the suggested read time. Nobody spends anywhere close to that. And I'm the same. Like we're so busy. We just want to get to give me the TLDR. Yeah, exactly. And also I want to stress out that this is kind of like a skill, right? All these MD files. It took me several iterations to refine it to get to a point where I'm actually happy with it.
Yeah.
And I actually did the same thing with a LinkedIn social skill. So I used Claude Skills Creator to create a skill that writes LinkedIn posts about things that I write. Because when you have an article, you want to publish it on LinkedIn. Same problem. So I analyze how I like to write blog posts, how I write posts. I have 3 kind of flavors, and I wrote something that gives me options on every kind of, whether it's an open source update or a new article or a speaker invite or whatever. It just knows how to create something that I can reuse, and I don't spend as much time as I did before. And it still sounds like me. It doesn't sound too agentic. So that's also something that people can use in the QR code and tailor it to their own voice.
Yep.
Which brings me to the last subject, a very short one. How I use it at work. So we all know Dario here, our friend, and he said that a year ago, he said that by this time, AI would write pretty much all of the code. I'm not sure it's really true. I think it may be true to some startups. Enterprise, we're far from that, especially now that the cost has really gone up and some companies are struggling with that. But I think it kind of misses the point, because Claude is not just for coding. Like we've seen, it's for content creation, and at work, where I'm an architect, I use it to create my own custom skills. It can be used to access Confluence, where we have our REST API standards. So I created a skill for REST API standards. And then I asked it for my service, here are my entities, let's create new APIs. And it allowed me to create Swagger files for these new APIs that follow the best practices of our company, which before would be very long and manual work using tools like Swagger Hub and things like that. Now it's very fast. Same thing I can do for AWS Serverless, Jira, whatever. But I can also generate diagrams like plant UML diagrams, and whatever I want. So research diagrams, it just helps me work much faster, and it's not really code, just whatever I need.
Yep, and I think that's what I see as well. And I think the main thing that we are missing today is really the 100% interacted AI, which I think, like, if I look at what I'm building myself and also what I'm doing at work, yes, I have skills. Yes, I have MCP servers. Yes, I have whatever to access the different tools that I have. But the brain power also relies on knowing how these things fit together, right? And I think that's where a lot of shift is still missing, right? How do I translate the details in the Open API, in the UML diagram and or in a Merbit diagram, right, into the code that needs to be generated? But on the other side, how do I push that change through the organization-specific deployment flow, which might be simpler in Palo Alto than it is in my organization, right? But still, that knowledge that is within the users or within the employees, I don't think that AI can today already replace that. Or do you think different?
You can. I think you can. All you need to do is build. That's exactly what we're kind of doing right now. We're doing a pilot with teams, and it's been working well. We're taking all those BMAD approaches, like the SDLC flows, and we're customizing them to our needs, to our flow, to the way we work. So when you start, that can be an entire different session once we get it working, but you get it work, you ask the agent, fetch from Jira a ticket, create a spec, review it, then push it back to Jira after you update it, then create a design, push it to Confluence, and then create tasks, and then start to write the code. And all along, you're working in the same context of your service, using some company skills. So you're following your best practices, your tools, everything. So everything can be automated, which is very scary. It can be. It just takes time and a lot of customizations. There were missing standards yet. Not a lot of standards still. Even in skills, like how do you test a skill? How do you run a pipeline for that? It's a non-deterministic action in the end. You need to make it more deterministic. How do you catalog it? How do you version it? There are so many challenges in this world, right? And we didn't even talk about MCP and security. So there's a lot of challenges here. But I think it's going to get sorted out. New tools are going to arrive. I wrote a blog post really last week about how our tools do not fit the needs that we have. I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And things are going to change, and the tools are going to adapt, for sure.
True. True, and I think it's going to be very rapidly. Like all of the bigger tech companies are investing into that, right? And I think it's going to take us just a few months to see the tools change in a way that they can be integrated better and faster, right? So, I think it's a very interesting time that we're in. Ran, as we come to the end of the session, what is your main takeaway of how things are changing for us in general? Like we said we didn't want to talk about code, but at the end we talked a lot about code and SDLC, right? Is it just that these days, or is it more than that?
No. I think for us as engineers, it's, if you recall, between the different projects, what made the difference was knowing exactly what you want to build and how. I think that's the code is cheap. You can refactor, you can change whatever you want. I think the skill that we have, we understand our customers, we understand our needs, we understand what we want to build. So product engineering, system engineering, I think that's more critical. Now, being an architect, I say, hey, that's great because that's part of what I do anyways. But I think engineers need to be more like that. So it's great that you know how to code correctly, you understand best practices and things like that. That's still fine. We still review the code, but it's not the main issue. The main issue is doing the product engineering and understanding what we want to build and how we want to build.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think in the end, we need to remember that we have limitations, agents have limitations, and that's why we can use skills to help us fill the gap where we don't have the knowledge.
Yeah, and it's all about us also using our knowledge at the end, right? And knowing our gaps, the gaps that the agents have and will have and will continue to have in the future is something that you need to be aware of, because only if you know that, you can also deal with those gaps or those problems that they have. It's the same like working with team members. If you know what they are good at, you can position them accordingly. If you don't know what they are good at, like keeping a time that was previously discussed, then you know how to maybe tell them and help them with going into that direction. Ran, this was a really, really good and insightful session. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Maybe I can invite you to do a session the other way around, how I work with Kiro, like in a few weeks or in a few days, and then show you how maybe, especially for developing and coding all of the different SaaS tools that I've been building, how I deal with just using a specific tool over here, right? Because I think what is going to come next, at least the way that I see it, is the possibility to move out of your own laptop, right, into the possibility of hosted agents and stuff like that. We did not really touch on that today, right? Because, like I told you, I got a new Mac. Now I can work again, but my old Mac was 3 years old, and it wasn't able to cope up with the whole of the AI stuff that I was doing on my laptop somehow, right? Maybe I do too much in parallel, right? Which is where my box became a limitation as well, just like when we introduced CI/CD and continuous integration about 20 years ago, right? And I think that's what is going to change in the next few months and most likely years. And it's exciting times to work in and to live in. So if you're doing something with AI and automation and have some follow-up questions on these things that we discussed today, please let us know in the show notes or reach out to us. And yeah, you know where to find us. I will put Ran's LinkedIn in the show notes as well. Thank you for staying in the website, of course. Well, all of the blog posts that you mentioned will be there as well, Ran. So thanks again for being with me today, Ran. And thank you everybody else for watching until the end of the show. And let's see what AI has to give for us in the next few weeks and months. Bye, Ran.
Bye.